When I was 18 I got my first job. There was this guy who was then 25. We kind of hit it off and after a few months, we got a bit more flirty. I learned he had a difficult upbringing so still lived at his friend's home with his mother I believe in her late 50 seconds divided by early 60 seconds, and her children. He asked me out before he went on holiday. When he came back we met each other at the weekend when he got back and went back to his friend's flat. I saw a ring on their table. He said it was his friend's as he was going to propose to his GF. After he seemed a bit stressed and wanted to walk. That was fine, so we went to the beach and he told me his friend's mom had gone through his computer. When I got home, I received a message from the mother. This is when I learned they were in a relationship. I contacted who I thought was my BF and he told me to ignore it. Next thing I knew, I was blocked everywhere. During the week he didn't turn up for work. On Friday, he messaged me saying he was sorry. It was then he told me the friend's mom and him were in a relationship, but there was a slip up and he ended up sleeping with her on holiday and she thought they were back together. He explained she was checking through his accounts on his computer as she knew there was something up. He then went on to say he was on medication as he did not want to live anymore. He said I was the only thing making him happy as he wanted to move out with me. Being naive and also young, I forgave him even though he was still with her at her house. It was then I learned they were together since he was 17, and I think her youngest daughter would have been around 2 when they got together. We would talk on Snapchat where he would unblock and block as he said he wasn't allowed to talk to anyone and he would get in trouble if I did. A friend of mine told me that if someone is depressed they encourage you to talk to others, so I thought something was off. I ended up messaging what I thought was his ex. She then blamed me for it all and said they were still together and they were engaged. I found out he had slept with her right after he slept with me. She wanted screenshots of the messages, which obviously I had little as he used to block and unblock me. She told me to stay away and then kept blaming me for everything. Later, he kept messaging me. I learned he wasn't coming back to work, at least not for another month, then 2, then 3. All through this he was telling me he only had me left and if I left he would have nothing. He was saying he would off himself if I left and implied that everyone would know it was me. Then he used to go silent and not reply where I did not know if he was there or not, where I lost a lot of weight. I felt like I had to keep this up or I would get blamed for his death. I took some time to think and decided to message her again where I would hopefully get a thank you. I was wrong. She blamed me again and asked for screenshots. She told me it was all my fault and she had to take time off work to care for him and questioned why he was messaging me and why I was replying. I had a few screenshots this time but it wasn't enough for her. He must have told her they weren't him and she accused me of lying. Finally, he must have caved and said it was his but she was still pissed at me. She said they were still engaged and nothing would change that. Then I got a message from her account on Messenger saying it was from him, explaining he never loved me and was just using me to make himself feel better. I sent a message back explaining how manipulative he was and blocked her account. A few weeks later he messaged me again. I really don't know why I didn't block him when he sent me the messages this time, but I think I really did love him. We began chatting a bit but all the while I felt guilty as I knew he must still be in a relationship and all the while saying how horrible he felt. I was worried he would threaten to do it again and say it was my fault. I felt so trapped. He would say how sorry he was and say we should get married and mention getting a flat so he could escape with me. He said he didn't have any money but he would clean and do all the housework. So, again I unblocked his GF to let him know it was obvious he was still cheating. Of course, I was blamed again. I sent all the screenshots I could but said even if he does contact me I won't be contacting her again. He sent me a few messages, even after all that, but I had the courage to block him first. I received random requests on various social media accounts to follow me right after this happened, but I can't be sure it was him. I learned a few years ago they got married. I don't think he has a job and is on benefits. Good riddance to both of them. TLDR, I at the time was seeing someone from work who was seeing his friend's mother. The guy from work would say he was going to off himself if I didn't stay with him. I told the friend's mother several times, and each time we had a conversation and she told me it was my fault he cheated.